SeaWorld is keeping a close eye on a killer whale blamed for killing a trainer.
In a chilling moment at Blue Horizon, the famous orca Neptune went from performer to predator, turning on its trainer in front of a shocked crowd. What began as a routine show quickly turned into a nightmare no one could have imagined. But this isn't an isolated case. Around the world, several orcas have suddenly broken from their carefully trained routines, transforming peaceful performances into terrifying encounters. Today, we uncover the dark truth behind these shocking incidents and the haunting final moments of those who thought they could control the ocean's most powerful predator. Toccoa and Claudia. Loro Park, located along the stunning coastline of Puerto de la Cruz in Tenerife, Spain, is a world-renowned haven for wildlife. Spread across more than 100,000 square meters of lush tropical greenery, the park is home to a wide variety of animals and attracts millions of visitors every year. Originally created as a sanctuary for parrots, it later expanded into a global destination featuring dolphins, penguins, and its most popular residents, the orcas. Among its main attractions was the Orca Ocean exhibit, where these magnificent creatures performed shows that celebrated their intelligence, power, and grace. But behind the applause and flashing cameras, something far more troubling was happening out of sight. One of the park's most famous orcas was Toccoa, a 6-year-old male weighing over 3,300 pounds, the son of the infamous orca Telecum. To the public, he was a crowd favorite, known for his size and energy. But to the trainers who worked with him daily, Toccoa's story was complex and deeply unsettling. Orcas, while highly intelligent, are still wild animals with unpredictable instincts. Toccoa had shown flashes of aggression before, but they were dismissed as minor behavioral quirks until one day those warnings could no longer be ignored. Toccoa's early life had been marked by instability and trauma. Shortly after his birth, he was separated from his mother, Tima, who had shown violent tendencies toward him, behavior believed to stem from her own troubled past. Tima had once witnessed her own mother attempt to drown one of her calves. Because of this, Toccoa was instead raised by another female orca named Kayla, and often paired with his half-brother, Tuar. In 2004, both Toccoa and Tuar were transferred to SeaWorld San Antonio, joining a new pod of orcas. The move proved difficult, and later his transfer to Loro Park only worsened his stress. He endured frequent aggression from other orcas, leaving him with visible scars, the marks of constant social conflict. Over time, Toccoa grew into a powerful but unpredictable animal, shaped by years of trauma. One of the trainers who worked closely with Toccoa was Claudia Volhart, a 29-year-old marine biologist from Weinheim, Germany. Claudia had dreamed of working with marine life since childhood, and becoming Europe's only female orca trainer was her proudest achievement. She believed deeply in her bond with the animals, and especially with Toccoa. Despite warnings from her colleagues about his erratic moods, Claudia trusted him completely. On what seemed like an ordinary training day, Claudia prepared for a short, simple session with Toccoa. The task was routine, a synchronized swim where Toccoa would gently nudge her feet with his snout. As she stood at the edge of the pool, Toccoa glided toward her, his massive dorsal fin slicing through the water. At first, he appeared calm, but then his movements shifted, slow, deliberate, and tense. Before anyone could react, Toccoa suddenly lunged. With terrifying speed, he rammed into Claudia, striking her chest with immense force and sending her crashing into the water. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. As she tried to resurface, Toccoa came at her again, slamming his body into hers with full strength. In seconds, he dragged her deep beneath the surface, more than 40 feet down. Claudia struggled desperately, her arm brushing against his sharp teeth as he pulled her deeper. The pressure built in her chest and her vision began to fade. Then, just as suddenly as it began, Toccoa released her. Claudia floated upward, gasping for air as Toccoa surfaced beside her, still gripping her arm in his mouth. With one last surge of energy, the massive orca propelled them both upward before letting go. Trainers on the platform, frozen in shock, sprang into action. They pulled Claudia from the water and away from the pool. She was barely conscious, her body bruised and her arm broken. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, where doctors fought to stabilize her condition. Against all odds, Claudia survived, but her recovery would be long and painful. The incident sent shockwaves through Loro Park. Management immediately suspended all water-based training sessions with Toccoa and enforced stricter safety protocols. But for Claudia, the physical and emotional scars would never fully fade. As she slowly recovered, public debate began to grow louder. Animal rights activists argued that captivity itself was to blame, that isolation, stress, and confinement push orcas beyond their limits, leading to aggression and violence. Toccoa's attack became another chapter in the ongoing controversy surrounding marine parks and their treatment of intelligent ocean predators. For some, it was a reminder of the extraordinary danger of working with creatures so powerful. For others, it was proof that no matter how much humans try to control nature, it will always find a way to fight back.
Ken Peters and Kinsatka. On November 29, 2006, SeaWorld San Diego became the scene of a terrifying and unforgettable incident. During an evening show at Shamu Stadium, Ken Peters, an experienced trainer, found himself in a life-threatening struggle with one of the park's orcas, Kinsatka. The massive female orca suddenly grabbed Peters by the foot, dragging him underwater with incredible force. The audience could only watch in horror as the trainer was repeatedly pulled to the bottom of the tank, powerless against the immense strength of the animal. For approximately 9 minutes, Kinsatka held Peters beneath the water, refusing to release him. The trainer fought to free himself, but the orca's power and unpredictability made every attempt nearly impossible. When Kinsatka finally let go, Peters managed to swim to safety, but even then, the danger was not over. Kinsatka pursued him, moving over a netted barrier in a striking attempt to reach him again, demonstrating the dangerous intelligence and sheer force of captive orcas. This shocking attack was not an isolated event. In fact, it marked the second recorded incident of aggression by Kinsatka toward Peters. The incident made headlines worldwide and became one of the most infamous examples of orca-related accidents at marine parks. Over time, Kinsatka gained a reputation for being aggressive, rivaling even some of the most notorious orcas like Tilikum. The Kinsatka-Peters encounter highlights a critical reality. No matter how trained or controlled, these magnificent creatures are wild at their core. Confined to artificial environments, even highly intelligent and trained animals can behave unpredictably, posing serious risks to humans. The tragic lesson from this incident is clear. Wild animals truly belong in the wild, not in captivity.
Shuka. In July 2012, a troubling and unforgettable incident occurred involving Shuka, a female orca who was on a breeding loan to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Originally from Marineland in France, Shuka had been trained to perform for audiences, but during a routine show, her behavior took a sudden and alarming turn. Without warning, she lunged out of the water, hurling her trainer several feet forward. The attack was unexpected and aggressive, leaving both the trainer and the audience in shock. But the incident didn't end there. Shuka continued her assault, repeatedly tossing her trainer into the water, creating a terrifying spectacle that was captured on video by a member of the audience. The footage spread quickly online, raising serious concerns about the safety of marine park staff and the unpredictable nature of captive orcas. Experts and activists studying Shuka's behavior suggested that her aggression may have been influenced by social factors. Before this incident, Shuka had a companion, a bottlenose dolphin named Merlin, with whom she had formed a bond. However, Merlin had been moved to a different part of the park, leaving Shuka isolated. Orcas are highly social and intelligent animals, often forming deep emotional connections with other members of their pod. The sudden absence of her companion may have caused stress, frustration, and feelings of loneliness, potentially contributing to her erratic and dangerous behavior. Following the incident, park officials transferred Shuka to SeaWorld San Diego, where her environment and social interactions could be better controlled. While she survived the encounter without causing fatal harm, the attack highlighted the serious risks involved in keeping such powerful, highly intelligent animals in captivity. Shuka's story became another example of how isolation, stress, and the unnatural conditions of marine parks can trigger aggressive behavior even in animals that have been trained to perform for humans. Her experience remains a cautionary tale for trainers, marine parks, and anyone who underestimates the instincts and emotional complexity of orcas. Alexis Martinez. A 29-year-old orca trainer had been working at a marine park in Tenerife, Spain since 2004. Over the years, he developed a deep connection with the animals he'd cared for, particularly the orcas. Known for his dedication and calm demeanor, Alexis was respected by his colleagues and admired by visitors. But during a Christmas show rehearsal on December 24, 2009, tragedy struck in a way that would shock the entire marine community. On that day, Alexis was conducting a routine training session with Kio, a male killer whale, in preparation for the upcoming holiday performance. At first, everything appeared normal. Kio surfaced alongside Alexis, calm and responsive, giving the impression that the session was under control. Yet, observant trainers noticed something unusual. Kio seemed to position himself between Alexis and the stage, almost as if blocking his path. Despite this odd behavior, Alexis remained composed, trusting his bond with the orca. He signaled for a stage call using an underwater tone, a standard command, and Kio swam toward the designated stage area where another trainer, Brian, was waiting. Brian instructed Alexis to move to a different spot in the pool as Kio approached. As Alexis began to swim away, using a sculling motion to navigate the water, Kio's demeanor suddenly shifted. The orca leaned subtly but ominously toward him. Sensing potential danger, Brian attempted to redirect Kio with a hand target, a method designed to focus the orca's attention, but Kio ignored the signal. In an instant, the situation escalated into a deadly attack. Kio used his rostrum, the front part of his head, to forcefully push Alexis to the bottom of the pool. The impact was devastating. Alexis suffered massive internal injuries, including severe trauma to his chest, and was killed almost immediately. The official cause of death was listed as massive internal bleeding, but the details revealed far more horrifying injuries. An autopsy later uncovered multiple compression fractures, shattered bones, and severely damaged internal organs. Bite marks on his body confirmed that Kio had physically attacked him during the incident. Initially, the park described Alexis's death as a tragic accident, claiming his body showed no signs of violence, and downplaying the severity of the event. However, the autopsy exposed the truth. This was a brutal orca attack, highlighting the extreme dangers trainers face when working with such powerful, unpredictable animals. Sadly, Alexis's death was not an isolated incident. Around the world, there have been more than 40 reported cases of captive orcas displaying aggression toward humans, demonstrating that even the most carefully trained animals can become dangerous under the pressures of confinement.
Annette, Eckes, and Shamu. On April 20th, 1971, a shocking incident unfolded at SeaWorld in San Diego, California, involving Annette Eckes, a park secretary, and the park's star attraction, a 10-year-old female orca named Shamu. Eckes had been persuaded to participate in a publicity stunt meant to showcase the orca and draw attention to the park. As part of the event, she was asked to ride on Shamu's back in the pool, a stunt that seemed exciting at first, but would soon turn into a nightmare. Initially, everything appeared to be going smoothly. Annette mounted Shamu as the crowd watched, cheering for the spectacle. But as the stunt neared its end, the situation took a terrifying turn. Without warning, Shamu violently threw Eckes off her back and into the water. The orca immediately seized Eckes by the leg, dragging and pushing her through the pool. Trapped in the powerful grip of the orca, Eckes was in grave danger as the massive animal refused to release her. Trainers watching from the edge of the tank sprang into action, desperately attempting to intervene. Their efforts proved difficult, as Shamu's immense strength kept Eckes pinned and struggling underwater. Eventually, the trainers managed to free her by prying open Shamu's jaws using a long pole. Once released, Eckes was rushed out of the pool on a stretcher, her injuries severe. The orca's bite had caused deep lacerations on her leg, requiring 25 stitches to close the wounds. The terrifying ordeal left Eckes traumatized and prompted her to take legal action against SeaWorld. Initially, she was awarded monetary compensation for her injuries, but this decision was later overturned on appeal. This incident remains one of the earliest and most infamous examples of the dangers trainers face when interacting with captive orcas. It highlights the unpredictability of these intelligent, powerful marine mammals, even in a controlled environment, and serves as a cautionary tale about the risks involved in human-animal interactions in marine parks.
Neptune and Maris. Blue Horizon Oceanic Park in sunny San Diego, California, was once one of the most popular destinations for marine enthusiasts. The park offered dazzling dolphin encounters, massive aquariums, and colorful coral reef exhibits. But the true attraction was Neptune, a colossal, 20-foot-long, 10,000-pound male orca. His breathtaking performances drew thousands of visitors every week, making him the park's biggest star and a major source of income. Neptune performed 6 shows a week, each one ending with thunderous applause. But behind the scenes, not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Trainers began to notice unsettling changes in Neptune's behavior. He would slam his massive tail against the tank walls, refuse to follow commands, and often isolate himself. Despite several warnings from the staff, the management at Blue Horizon refused to cancel his shows. The money Neptune brought in was too valuable to risk losing. Among the trainers was 27-year-old marine biologist Maris Ellington, who had spent years building a strong bond with Neptune. Growing up along Oregon's rugged coast, she had always dreamed of working with marine life. Her connection with Neptune was something she took great pride in, and even when his mood began to shift, she believed she could manage him. But not everyone shared her confidence. One senior trainer had already filed multiple reports about Neptune's increasing aggression, urging the park to retire him from performances or at least reduce his exposure to large crowds. Management ignored the warnings, and when the trainer's concerns were dismissed, they quit in frustration. The decision to prioritize profits over safety would soon have deadly consequences. It was a bright afternoon when Maris prepared Neptune for another show. She had already completed one successful performance earlier in the day, and the amphitheater, filled with over 500 guests, buzzed with excitement. As the music began and Neptune entered the tank, the crowd erupted in cheers. The massive orca glided through the water gracefully, completing his opening stunts perfectly. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Maris smiled, relieved that Neptune seemed calm and cooperative. Then came the finale, the signature act that always left the audience in awe. Maris dove into the water for a synchronized swim with Neptune. The orca began circling her as the crowd watched in silence, waiting for the grand finale. Maris signaled for Neptune to perform a powerful breach beside her. For an instant, it seemed he was going to follow the cue. But then, without warning, Neptune turned violently and lunged at Maris, biting down across her midsection with his massive jaws. The impact lifted her body out of the water before dragging her down into the depths of the pool. Panic spread instantly. Trainers on the platform threw ropes, buoys, and buckets of fish to distract Neptune. 2 others used long poles to try to separate him from Maris, but his thrashing was too aggressive. The water churned red as Neptune slammed her body against the tank walls. Terrified screams filled the arena as families shielded their children's eyes. After a minute of chaos, Neptune finally released her, and her lifeless body floated to the surface. Divers rushed in to pull Maris from the water, while medics desperately tried to revive her. Her injuries were devastating: multiple broken ribs, a punctured lung, and severe internal trauma. Despite their efforts, Maris was pronounced dead at the scene. The park immediately evacuated all guests and suspended operations. The news spread like wildfire, sparking outrage and sorrow across the country. Blue Horizon faced intense criticism for ignoring clear signs of danger. Maris's grieving parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit, accusing the park of negligence and claiming that Neptune's aggressive behavior was the result of stress and isolation caused by captivity. The lawsuit also exposed that Blue Horizon had failed to provide proper safety measures for trainers.
After several months, the case was settled privately. The park agreed to a large financial settlement and promised to fund marine conservation projects and research into the mental well-being of captive orcas. But the damage to its reputation was permanent. Attendance dropped sharply, and within a few years, the once thriving Blue Horizon Oceanic Park declared bankruptcy and shut down for good. Neptune was later relocated to a marine sanctuary in British Columbia, where he could live in a larger, more natural environment. Though his new life was more peaceful, the tragedy at Blue Horizon left a lasting scar on the world of marine entertainment. It became a dark reminder that even the most well-trained orca remains a wild, unpredictable creature, and that keeping such powerful animals in captivity often ends in heartbreak. But Neptune's story isn't the only one. Around the world, other orcas have followed the same tragic path, performers turned predators, proof that sometimes nature cannot be tamed.